You know that feeling when you find out something you've loved your whole life has been hiding secrets from you? Well, buckle up because I'm about to blow your mind about Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island first aired on CBS in 1964. And of course, it was filmed right here on this.
I was scrolling through some old TV forums last week, and someone posted this theory that made me literally drop my phone. They claimed that every single episode contains hidden details that completely change how you see the show. At first, I was like, come on, it's just a silly sitcom from the 60s. But then I started digging deeper. And honestly, what I found is insane. Like, did you know that the show was originally supposed to end after just one season? But the network executives were finding so many Easter eggs and hidden references in the episodes that they demanded more? Or that Bob Denver, who played Gilligan, actually hid personal messages to his family in almost every episode through specific gestures and clothing choices? And that's just scratching the surface. The more I researched, the more I realized that Sherwood Schwartz, the creator, was basically playing this elaborate game with the audience. He was embedding all these tiny details that most people would never catch, but if you knew what to look for, they completely changed the entire meaning of scenes. Some fans have spent decades cataloging these hidden elements, and when you see them all together, it's like watching a completely different show. But here's where it gets really wild. There's this underground community of Gilligan's Island superfans who have been sharing theories and discoveries for years. And they claim that if you watch the episodes in a specific order and pay attention to certain recurring symbols, the show is actually telling a much darker story than anyone realized. I mean, we're talking about a level of detail that would make Marvel fans jealous. So anyway, let me take you through this rabbit hole of hidden details, behind-the-scenes secrets, and fascinating facts about one of television's most beloved shows. Trust me, by the time we're done, you're never going to watch Gilligan's Island the same way again. Let's start with the basics that most people know, then work our way into the really obscure stuff. Gilligan's Island premiered on September 26, 1964, and ran for 3 seasons until 1967.
The iconic TV show Gilligan's Island, actor Josh Gad will write and star in the film, although it hasn't been confirmed.
The show was created by Sherwood Schwartz, who would later go on to create the Brady Bunch. The basic premise was simple. 7 castaways stranded on an uncharted desert isle after their 3-hour tour goes wrong. But what most people don't realize is how meticulously planned every aspect of the show was. Schwartz wasn't just throwing together a silly comedy. He was crafting something much more sophisticated. The 7 characters weren't randomly chosen. They were specifically designed to represent different aspects of American society. The millionaire and his wife represented the upper class. The professor represented intellectualism and science. Mary Ann represented small-town America. Ginger represented Hollywood glamour. The skipper represented blue-collar leadership. And Gilligan represented the everyman who screws things up despite good intentions. Now, here's where things start getting interesting. The island itself was never supposed to be just a random tropical location. If you pay close attention to the background shots throughout the series, you'll notice that the geography doesn't always make sense. Sometimes the beach is on one side, sometimes it's on another. The lagoon appears to change size between episodes. This wasn't sloppy continuity, it was intentional. Schwartz wanted to create this sense that the island existed outside of normal reality, almost like a dream or psychological space rather than a real place. That's why you'll notice that despite being stranded for years, none of the castaways ever seem to age. Their clothes never really wear out, and they have access to an impossible variety of materials and supplies for their various schemes. The opening theme song is probably one of the most recognizable TV themes ever written.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from the...
But did you catch all the subtle changes between seasons? In the first season, the professor and Mary Ann weren't even mentioned by name. They were just referred to as, and the rest. This wasn't an oversight. It was a deliberate choice to emphasize how the class system works. The wealthy passengers and the crew were important enough to name individually, while the ordinary people were just part of the background. When fan outcry forced them to change the theme song in later seasons to include everyone's names, Schwartz made sure to embed this class commentary even deeper into the show's structure. You'll notice that in episodes after the theme change, there are more scenes showing Marianne and the professor taking leadership roles or coming up with solutions, almost as if being acknowledged in the theme song gave them more agency within the show's universe. The costumes tell their own story too. Ginger's evening gowns and the Howells' formal wear might seem ridiculous for castaways, but every outfit choice was deliberate.
Gilligan's Island. Oh my gosh. She played the seductive and beautiful Ginger Grant.
The wardrobe department kept detailed notes about which colors and styles appeared in which episodes, creating visual patterns that repeat throughout the series. For example, whenever Ginger wears red, something dramatic happens to disrupt the group's harmony. When Mrs. Howell wears her pearls, money or class issues become central to the plot. Gilligan's shirts are particularly fascinating. Bob Denver insisted on having input into his costume choices, and if you track the patterns and colors of his shirts throughout the series, you can actually see them telling a story about his character's emotional journey. The red shirt appears in episodes where Gilligan is trying to prove himself. The blue shirt shows up when he's feeling sad or left out. And the rare occasions when he wears white coincide with moments of genuine heroism. The skipper's hat is another detail most people miss. It's not just a captain's hat. It's specifically a merchant marine cap, which tells us something important about his background. Merchant mariners weren't military. They were civilian sailors who transported cargo and passengers. This detail explains why the skipper often seems torn between being an authority figure and being one of the gang. He's used to being in charge of a ship, but he's not used to military-style command. Speaking of the skipper, his relationship with Gilligan contains layers that most viewers never notice. If you watch carefully, you'll see that despite all the yelling and hat-throwing, the skipper never actually punishes Gilligan in any meaningful way. He never excludes him from activities, never stops trusting him with important tasks, and never suggests that maybe Gilligan should be left behind during rescue attempts. This isn't just comedy. It's showing us that their relationship is actually one of the most genuine and caring on the island. The professor's character has some really subtle details too. Roy Hinckley wasn't just the professor. He was specifically a high school science teacher before the shipwreck. This explains why he's so good at explaining things in simple terms and why he can seemingly create anything from coconuts and bamboo. He's used to working with limited resources and making complex concepts accessible to teenagers. But here's something really cool about the professor that most people miss. He never actually fixes the radio or builds a working rescue device, despite being capable of incredible inventions. Some fans theorize that this is because he knows something about their situation that he's not telling the others. Others think it's because he's actually happier on the island than he ever was in his regular life, and subconsciously sabotages rescue attempts. Marianne's character has hidden depths too. Dawn Wells fought hard to make sure Marianne wasn't just a generic sweet character.
Dawn Wells, who played Marianne on the hit TV show Gilligan's Island.
If you watch closely, you'll notice that Marianne is actually the most competent person on the island in terms of practical skills. She can cook, sew, garden, preserve food, and handle most domestic tasks that keep everyone alive and comfortable. In many episodes, she's quietly solving problems while the others are focused on flashier solutions. The way Marianne interacts with each of the other characters also reveals different aspects of her personality. With the professor, she's curious and eager to learn. With Ginger, she's slightly competitive but supportive. With the Howells, she's respectful but not deferential. With the skipper, she's almost maternal. And with Gilligan, she's patient and kind in a way that suggests she sees something in him that others don't. Ginger's character is probably the most misunderstood on the show. Tina Louise was actually a serious dramatic actress who took the role because she thought it would showcase her range. If you look past the obvious glamour, Ginger is portrayed as intelligent, resourceful, and emotionally complex. She's not just a pretty face. She's someone who uses her Hollywood experience and people skills to help the group in ways that aren't always obvious. The running gag about Ginger's endless supply of evening gowns isn't just comedy. It's commentary on how Hollywood creates artificial personas. Even stranded on a desert island, Ginger maintains her image because that's all she knows how to be. But in episodes where she drops the act, like when she's genuinely worried about someone or working on a practical problem, you see glimpses of who she really is underneath the glamour. The Howells represent old money aristocracy, but they're not just one-dimensional rich people. If you pay attention to their dialogue, you'll notice that they often reference specific historical events, social movements, and cultural changes that reveal a lot about their background and worldview. Mr. Howe's business stories aren't just random comedy, they're actually a pretty accurate portrayal of how American capitalism evolved through the early 20th century. Mrs. Howe's relationship with her husband is also more complex than it appears. Despite the surface-level bickering and social climbing, they genuinely care about each other and have obviously been through a lot together. In episodes where one of them is in real danger, the other's reaction shows the depth of their bond. The island's geography itself tells a story if you know how to read it. The lagoon, the jungle, the caves, and the various clearings aren't just random sets. They're designed to represent different psychological and social spaces. The lagoon is where the group gathers for community activities and discussions. The jungle represents the unknown and dangerous aspects of their situation. The caves are where characters go for privacy or reflection. Each location serves specific narrative purposes. The famous bamboo and coconut inventions aren't just sight gags either. If you actually analyze what the professor builds and how he builds it, most of his contraptions are based on real scientific principles. The show employed scientific consultants to make sure that even the most ridiculous inventions had some basis in actual engineering and physics. The wildlife on the island is surprisingly consistent too. The same bird calls appear in the background of episodes throughout the series, and the plants and flowers visible in shots follow realistic patterns for a tropical ecosystem. This attention to environmental detail helps create the illusion that this is a real place with its own natural history. One thing that's fascinating about the show's structure is how it handles time. Despite being stranded for what's supposed to be years, the characters never seem to age, seasons don't change, and holidays appear to cycle normally. This creates a kind of temporal bubble where normal rules don't apply. Some fans interpret this as evidence that the island exists outside normal reality. The show's approach to technology is also really interesting. They're clearly from the 1960s based on their references and attitudes, but the island seems to exist in a timeless space where 1960s technology works alongside more primitive survival techniques. The radio picks up contemporary broadcasts, but they live in bamboo huts. This contrast isn't accidental. It's highlighting the tension between modern civilization and basic human survival. The guest stars who appeared on the show often played characters who represented different aspects of the outside world that the castaways had left behind. Whether it was other castaways, visiting scientists, or people from their past lives, these characters usually served to remind both the audience and the main characters of what they were missing back in civilization. The dream sequences and fantasy episodes are particularly rich in hidden details. When characters imagine themselves in different scenarios, the details of these fantasies reveal their deepest desires and fears. Gilligan's dreams are usually about being competent and respected. The professor's fantasies often involve having unlimited resources for his experiments. Ginger dreams about returning to Hollywood success, but often with more meaningful roles than she had before. The show's treatment of romance is also more sophisticated than it initially appears. The potential romantic connections between characters are never explicitly developed, but they're consistently hinted at through subtle interactions and visual cues. Marianne and the professor have obvious chemistry, but it's always understated. Ginger flirts with everyone, but it's usually more about maintaining her image than genuine attraction. The recurring themes throughout the series form patterns that become more apparent when you watch episodes in order. Themes about cooperation versus individualism, civilization versus nature, leadership versus followership, and appearance versus reality appear repeatedly with variations. Each character embodies different positions on these themes, and their interactions explore the tensions between competing values. The props department created an impressive level of detail for items that only appeared briefly on screen. The books in the professor's hut, the contents of the Howells' luggage, and the personal items that various characters treasured all tell stories about who these people were before they got stranded. The show's humor works on multiple levels, too. There's the obvious slapstick comedy that appeals to kids, but there's also sophisticated wordplay, cultural references, and social satire that rewards adult viewers. Some of the skipper's malapropisms and the Howells' social observations are actually pretty sharp commentary on American society in the 1960s. The musical numbers and variety show episodes showcase talents that the actors had outside of their regular roles. These episodes often feature the actors performing songs or comedy routines that reflect their real-life entertainment backgrounds, adding another layer of authenticity to their characters. The show's production values were actually quite high for a 1960s sitcom. The outdoor sets, the special effects for storms and other natural phenomena, and the costume design all show attention to detail that wasn't common in television at the time. This level of craft helps sell the reality of the island setting, even when the plots get ridiculous. The writing team included several people who went on to successful careers in television, and you can see their developing skills and how the show's scripts became more sophisticated over its 3-season run. Early episodes focus more on basic survival comedy, while later episodes explore more complex character relationships and social themes. The show's legacy in popular culture extends far beyond just being a nostalgic comfort show. References to Gilligan's Island appear in everything from other TV shows to academic papers about media and society. The characters have become archetypes that other shows reference and build upon. So, there you have it. Just a taste of the incredible depth hidden beneath the surface of what most people think is just a simple comedy show. Gilligan's Island was actually a masterclass in character development, social commentary, and sophisticated storytelling disguised as mindless entertainment. The next time you watch an episode, try paying attention to some of these details I mentioned.
Look for the costume patterns, notice the character interactions, watch how the island's geography serves the story, and see if you can spot some of the hidden references and themes. I guarantee you'll discover things that will make you appreciate just how clever and complex this supposedly simple show really was. And honestly, this is just the beginning. There are fan communities that have been analyzing this show for decades, finding new details and connections that the creators embedded throughout the series. It's like a treasure hunt that never ends, which is probably exactly what Sherwood Schwartz intended when he created this little world on an uncharted desert isle. What do you think? Have you noticed any of these details before? Or do you have your own theories about hidden meanings in Gilligan's Island? Let me know in the comments what you think about all these hidden layers. And if you want to see more deep dives into classic TV shows that are way more complex than they appear on the surface, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss when I dive into the next show that's been hiding secrets in plain sight all these years.